This episode of the Operatory Podcast is brought to you by Opera DDS, the easy solution for communication in your dental practice, between dental practices, and with your specialists. Paperless forms, secure email, full recall, and intra-office communication with chat and teledentistry, all available at operadds.com. Welcome to the Operatory Podcast, the podcast about burying the dinosaurs in dentistry, moving past outdated procedures and technology to find a better way. With me, as always, is my man David Pryor, who your baby break, man.
I make you break every time. It's
yeah,
just
but this was a bad one. Yeah, Dave does dances. Let's put it that way. While I'm doing the intro, and man, you got me. Well, nicely done. So not only providing the incredibly important patient experience, but also making me laugh. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So, my man, today I want to talk about a just broad scope, taking a step back, something we don't normally do, taking us out of the world of dentistry, and then maybe bringing us back in.
Okay.
It comes from, basically, I saw a quote from Jeff Bezos from Amazon,
Okay.
right? Relatively known as a moderately intelligent dude,
Yeah.
right? Kind of knows what he's talking
He
about.
does.
And he talked about the reason why Amazon will die.
Okay.
And-
I did not read this article.
Okay. No, just much like everything, you're the blank slate, my man. You come in here with no knowledge of what we're going to talk about, and I just throw stuff at you, and then you provide the wonderful patient perspective.
Awesome.
So what he said is that Amazon is going to die because they become so big that it's natural for customers to view them as bad. I thought that was interesting. Interesting enough where I went, we should talk about that on the podcast.
Okay.
So here's the many things that I think of is that, basically dissecting why we as people, not as dentists or just as human beings, have a natural disdain towards large companies, just large organizations in general. And if you think that's true, and if so, why?
I absolutely think it's true. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to your wife, Tessa, about this today.
Really?
Yeah. We were talking about how, I use Google Home and I have my Google phone and
And it just came out today that people are actually listening to some of those queries. By the way.
for sure. Yeah. And I was talking about how I have my Google Overlord where they know everything I'm doing. And it's like, all right, that's my one overlord that I'm happy to have as part of my life. But
that you know of.
that I know, no, not because now I did a search for something on Google, and that's the product that I searched for showed up in Facebook, which I don't have installed on anything, and I was like, oh, that makes me mad, and so the invasion of privacy from Facebook into my very existence drives me crazy.
I think we should have a whole nother podcast about a wonderful topic you brought up, man. Privacy, security, huge topic, as you know I'm passionate about, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I do not feel like you are. I'm not okay with one overlord, but I understand that that's kind of the way the world works, and we should talk about that. However, my friend, different problem,
Right.
right? Having an overlord that is doing stuff to you that you don't want or authorize is a different deal than, because there could be a huge, let's say there was the anti-privacy league that was gigantic.
Yep.
If it got big enough, what Jeff Bezos I think is arguing is that it doesn't matter what they're doing, if it's altruistic and benefiting everybody, they're naturally going to be. We liked rooting for underdogs, right?
Right.
Richard Branson, one of my mentors, right?
Yep.
Has one of the richest people in the world, like 400 companies, still positions himself as the underdog because we root for him.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And Jeff, what Bezos is doing is he's not positioning Amazon as the underdog.
No.
So when they become the gigantor, corp, when he becomes the man, like that we buy everything from becomes. Now that he is,
yes.
right? Like, a whole nother conversation would be like, we don't hate Amazon. Like, why? But not Not saying that we should. I'm saying because he predicted that it would become so big that it'd be natural for customers to view them as bad, right?
Yeah.
And I think I agree with that statement. I think you do too.
I
think,
do too.
I'm just wondering why. I can see why, like Google, because if there's a privacy issue, but if there's a let's say I have no idea about the inner workings of Amazon, but if they've got the Echo, which has been
I was just going to say,
which is worse than the Google, right? Or at least the stories that have come out with them, like.
Right.
Right. But if they were not if they weren't invading our privacy, if they were just selling us stuff conveniently at lower prices, why would we as consumers view them as bad?
I think when you dominate the market as they do in that space, you're put in a vulnerable position. And so if you're not able to control that, you lose control. I guess that's ultimately the feeling that people are worried about, is losing control of their ability to make buying decisions from anyone else. So like when I go to purchase from somebody other than Amazon online, I start out by like, do I want to put my credit card out with this company? Do I trust this company enough? And right now I have that trust with Amazon.
Yeah.
But I'm not putting an Amazon Echo in my house because then that's one more overlord that's part of my house. So that's why I've got the Google Home, because it's like I'm not adding two overlords if I can avoid it.
Well, so you bring up a good point that in Amazon's case, there's actually they get some benefit from being so large because they already have your information, right?
Yep.
But before I talk about what I believe is the solution, which even a small business, even if you're a single dentist, you can learn from, I believe, the Jeff Bezos's quote. But before we talk about that, as I've recently joined up with Dental Care Alliance and part of a DSO, I think people view DSOs as bad just because they're big too, right?
Yeah.
And have now being sort of working with one, I'm like, this is amazing. The people there are great. Like the altruism that's going on, like wanting to, it's not all about numbers. It's about moving things in a positive direction. Obviously, we look at numbers just like I did before I worked with Dental Care Alliance and stuff. But the misconception that I held, that I think other people hold, is just because big is bad, right?
Yeah.
And just like Bezos said. But what I think the antidote to that is, what I think the antithesis is not, and it's not just true for big companies, it's true for any company, is focusing on customer service. And I think that's why Amazon is still viewed as it's positively. Like people love Amazon.
Yep.
It's because Bezos has probably recognized that as they became large, they would be viewed as bad. And how do you get around that? You give people what they want all of the time. Hyper focusing on like same minute shipping. Like they're like, part of the reason why they totally invade our privacy is because very soon Amazon's going to be delivering us stuff before we know we even want it. Right.
Yep.
I mean, it's going to be, boy, we're both Star Wars fans.
Yep.
When the new Star Wars thing comes out, it'll be like automatically delivered. Do you want to keep it or send it back? You know that's coming, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And that's why I think he focuses so obsessively on customer service, because that's pretty much the antidote to any problem in any company.
I agree.
Do you agree?
I agree 100%, actually. Even like I just had a customer service issue where I wasn't able to deliver exactly what I had wanted to be able to deliver to a customer. So, but by preempting, by engaging the customer before they even knew it was an issue, the customer was incredibly happy. And I can imagine or understand that that's the exact same thing in dentistry, is when you recognize what's going on and let the patient know before it's even a problem, that's very well received.
It all comes back to the patient perspective,
Yep.
right? Like,
Yep.
like that you provide here,
Yeah.
man. Because if you're looking at things from the patient perspective, what we talk about all the time on the operatory, and that's a big part of what this is, the whole reason why we want to put outdated technology and procedures behind us is so that we can transform patients' experiences.
Yeah.
And that really in dentistry is what customer service is.
Right.
Right. I mean, there's other parts like how you do billing or how you do appointing, but even that's, you know, you have to just look at it from, if I were a patient going to this office, how would I want it done?
Right.
You know, and so that's so I appreciate your thoughts, providing the patient perspective as we talked about the Jeff Bezos quote today. Thank you, sir.
You got it, Brian. Have a great one.
You do. I also want to remind you to rate and review us wherever you're listening to this podcast. And if you have suggestions or comments, please visit theoperatory.com and drop us a line. Again, I'm Dr. Brian Laskin, host of The Operatory. Thanks for listening. I look forward to speaking with you next week.